Hello, my name's Jonti.
And I'm Brandon, also known as B Squared, and this is This Week in Ink.
Each week we'll be taking you through the Inklands and bringing you all the news and the views on all things Lorcana.
Coming up, we have our main segments, Main Street Market Watch and You Made Me Ink.
And we'll be taking opinions from the live chat.
Hello live chat! Oh man,
can you tell we're frazzled?
An exciting and exhausting weekend.
Oh, man.
Oh my goodness.
I'm just going to say it now because I know we do have a lot of people come over from Let's Talk Lorcana over on the Illuminateers channel.
Shout out to Liam and Aaron.
We are not anywhere near as prepared as they were.
I walked through my door about 15 minutes ago. So
it is just the two of us talking until we fall asleep tonight. That's there's no, we're not bringing on over half a dozen guests.
Look, Liam always down talks himself constantly. He was doing it all weekend about his commentary and he always does it, but like his stream is going to be the better one tonight. I hate to break it to you
absolutely
folks.
Yeah. I've always said this, and I may talk about this a little bit later. I am my own biggest critic. With anything I do, I always think that it's terrible. But Liam is just the same. He's constantly like, oh no, man, you guys are, and I'm like, dude, you consistently crush it every single week, and then me and you turn up afterwards like, hey.
Yeah, I see tons of people in the chat that I also met in Atlanta. So shout out to all of those guys. Everyone knows who you are. There's too many of you, honestly, King.
Yeah, it was amazing seeing your pictures. Obviously, we were both involved with the weekend, but I was stuck in Lorcana space all weekend. I don't know if you noticed, I was floating. There was Lorcana stuff.
Oh yeah. I caught that sometimes.
Me and Rebecca were floating around in Lorcana space.
I'll be honest. One of the most disappointing things about the stuff that's happening behind the desk. I miss everyone too, Skinner. I hate. This is the thing I hate the most about these exciting weekends is the leaving, because then we all go sit down behind our computer again. And I'm just like, this feels horrible. I'd rather just be in the same place. But anyway, you guys, a little scoop on what was going on behind the desk. There was a little bit of a technical malfunction where the headphones we were wearing, like Liam and I couldn't hear each other. And we also couldn't hear what was happening on the stream. So anytime that Tannen was doing like an interview, we had absolutely no idea what he was saying. It would just cut back to us and then we'd just go. So I hope he didn't like ask us anything or mention or say anything to us and then we just ignore it because we couldn't hear it. But also I couldn't hear you or Rebecca commentating because there were
you didn't miss much.
there were a couple times where, I mean, you know, you commentate a couple matches over and over again and you start to get a little gassed at the end of the day. And sometimes I would just sit down and just like watch the game that you guys were casting, partially to do a little research on my end, see what people are playing in case I end up casting one of those people. But I really wish I could have listened to you guys. So
yeah. I've gone back at a few people have sort of popped them online. They're not up officially, but a few people have sort of re-uploaded them. So I've gone back and watched the few I missed because, you know, the whole point of having the two teams was so that each team could have a little bit of downtime, right? So sometimes I did just sort of sit here in between mine anyway and just watch you guys, but you know, occasionally you go off and grab lunch or, you know, a recharge or whatever. So I went back and sort of bits that I missed, but I think you guys did fantastically. I'm super proud of you and Liam and the whole team. I think everyone did a really great job. It was the first sort of big one of the, obviously Leal as well, happening pretty much simultaneously. So I'm always I'll probably say, you know, the first one a lot. Leal, 6 hours on us.
Technically, they're the first one,
but I kind of consider the weekend all as one big thing, you know, happening. You know, and isn't that amazing? Just to think that the world was playing and watching Lorcana. You know, it just sort of happened across the pond, and it was really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was. From what I hear everybody saying based on like YouTube comments right now and then on Twitter and Discord and stuff, everybody seemed to enjoy it.
Thank you, Jim, by the way, for the super chat.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. That is awesome and very kind, which is kind of leading into what I was saying. People seem to be really happy with how he did. And it's one of those things that I'm having a difficult time like actually taking in. It's one of those things like 100 people can tell you something positive and then you see the one negative comment and then like you just brood on it. Luckily, I did not look at Twitch chat at all.
Yeah.
It wasn't available to us. So if people were saying anything negative about us, I couldn't see it. But this was a big opportunity for Liam and me and Rebecca and you, Jonti. And I know we all were really nervous about it, and we wanted to do a good job. And so I appreciate everybody that has said, that they thought we did a good job and appreciated it. And of course, I see a bunch of people in chat saying they had a great time meeting me, and same, like I was just as excited to meet everybody else. And I feel like I still missed people. One of the things I was most frustrated with at the end of the tournament was I just forgot to take pictures with so many people. I would get so excited to see somebody and actually talk and interact with them. I would forget to take a picture because sometimes, like, I was honestly watching the clock most of the day because, like Jonti said, we were just kind of in between rounds. So every time Liam and I would commentate, we'd be done and go to Jonti and Rebecca. We'd have 30 to 40 minutes. And I tried to use that to get out and go see people. And then we'd have to run back and put on the headset. So if anybody has pictures with me and them, send them to me, please, because I'd like to have as many of them as possible.
I thought because I saw your post that got like sort of a dozen or so pictures of everybody, and I saw Liam do a similar one, and I kind of went to do jokingly, and I thought against it because I thought it might look just like bitter, but I was just going to do like a dozen pictures of me in front of my green screen in like different poses, because basically, this is how I was literally just sat here.
Yeah.
I had a little bit more lighting on me to get a nice good wash on the green screen, and I had the green screen up, but and a suit. Obviously, a lot of comments saying, "Oh, missing you guys in suits today."
Yeah.
Thank you, Liam.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate you, buddy. I love how on the YouTube chat it's a cute little, but here we just get like the audio, the audio description. Shiba dog raises and lowers his index finger to get noticed. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you, Liam, very much.
There were 3,000 people watching at Twitch at times. Yes, it was kind of insane.
Oh, wow.
And like I say, for the most part, I was just quickly Googling while you were looking for it. Then there's a picture that gets shared around a lot. For those of you who don't know, in a past life, I was a magician. I don't actually believe in past lives. I mean, years ago, I was a magician. I spent 10 years working as a professional magician, and there was an image that got sent around there a lot that was for performers in general. And it was a cartoon, but it was just of like 100 people in an audience looking at you on a stage, and they were all clapping and cheering, apart from one guy. You wouldn't even notice it. It was like a Where's Waldo. There was one guy just sat there like that. and the picture, and it just says what the audience looks like, and then underneath was the exact same picture with everyone removed apart from that one guy. And it said what the performer sees, and that's exactly how I always feel about it. And I'm terrible for it. And I will go and find I'll go and read the YouTube comments, and I'll go and watch Twitch chat, and they'll have so many people private message me. They'll reach out on Twitter and in the Discords here on the chat, and they'll be like, "Oh, you guys did amazing." And I always go, "Yeah, well, you would say that." and then I go and find the absolute random scumbag.
Yeah, that you don't even know.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, he knows. I wish I could find it because it absolutely sums up how my head works, and I wish it didn't, but it's how it does, unfortunately.
Yeah, but overall, I mean, it was a super exciting weekend, and gosh, I'm a little bit at a loss for words on where to even start and talk about it, because not only was the commentary part of it a literal dream come true for me, like when I started the YouTube channel and started thinking about where this game might go, a like really far off, like the I've made it goal is like I'm behind a desk commentating over Lorcana for people to watch, and that has come so much faster than I ever expected it to come. In a point where like I'm confident in my ability, I'm confident in my skills, but I don't put myself on the same level as a lot of other professional commentators that I see commentate other games, and so it was a very surreal moment to be there and to do it. And
I think, like, obviously, there was a lot of behind the scenes planning, but I think it's probably okay to say at this point that we were brought on quite late in this process.
Yes,
a lot of like there's a lot of back and forth between all the different companies. You know, there was PPG running the tournament, but then there was ESA running the streaming. There's obviously Ravensburger. All of this gets cleared by Disney. So there's lots of people having to have their say, and all of this gets divided. So so this actually came onto us quite late. So I didn't really have that much time to even decompress the concept of what we were doing before we were doing it, right? Roges, I'm sorry if I'm not saying the name right. I just wanted to point this one out, that they enjoyed watching as well. But also the reason I'm pointing this out is because they mentioned Spessy and Baker there, Lorcana villain, Curly and Baker, who did an absolutely amazing job covering Leal. In some ways, I think what they did was even trickier than us, because they were doing it like completely live, and the games were live and everything. So they were really having to keep on top of what was going on, whereas we were working with some pre-recorded material that gave us a little bit of leeway in how the day worked out. I think we all did a good job. As best as we could. We were new to it and we were doing it, but I feel like Spessy and Villain, it sounded like they've been going for 10 years, man. They absolutely crushed it. They just sounded like absolute consummate professionals. I watched them both mornings before we got started, and it was like incredibly humbling, honestly, because they just smashed it out of the park. Baker, especially considering he's very new to this stuff, as newer than us. Actually, started a little bit later in the whole the Lorcana YouTube stuff. He just absolutely crushed it. I'm super proud of him.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to listen to or watch any of the stuff because I was there.
Well, you were there, right?
Yeah. I'm planning over the next couple of days to go back and listen, and I'm excited to see, like you said, what Baker and Spessy were doing, and then also to hear you guys and try to listen to how me and Liam did and sounded, and maybe I don't know, find areas that I could improve in. So I'm eager to go back and watch and listen and see. So yeah.
So that, enough about us. Let's talk about the actual weekend itself. So we don't have much to say about Leal because it was very far away from us. But shout out to Frank who won there with Steel Song. Incredible job, and well done to everyone else who competed there. But we obviously were following Atlanta, so we can talk a little bit more in depth about that. So just under 2,000, I think the actual number in the end was 1998 or something, 1988, something like that.
I think that was it. Yeah,
I remember it because it was like a year. The number sounded like
yeah.
I think it was 1,988 people. So really impressive turnout. And yeah, the space they used was the just Atlanta Convention Center. Is just what it's called?
It was the Georgia World Congress Center. It was built. We were like in the basement of an anime con, is what I heard. Is what I heard somebody say.
Yeah,
and it was actually MomoCon was going on at the same time. It was kind of funny because we were really in our own little like bubble down there. There was a building B, and you had to go down a bunch of escalators, and then you'd like go down this other escalator, and then we're just in this really, really large hall. Which, by the way, it was amazing. It was so cool to see like over 2,000 people in one room with all the cool Lorcana stuff, like playing Lorcana. One of the things I enjoyed the most out of the weekend was when I wasn't casting, and before the live stream actually started the first day, Liam and I were able to walk around the floor as people were actively playing, while like all 2,000 people were still around because it was round 1 or 2 or something. And it was just so cool to see hundreds of tables lining a room and everybody's like throwing Lorcana cards on the table. It was a really, really cool experience.
I got to ask, what does 2,000 people go in?
So this is the thing. I was surprised at how, and maybe it was because I wasn't playing, and maybe I was reading the room wrong, but the room almost felt calm. Like when everybody was playing, it was quiet. It was like everybody just doing their thing. And maybe that's because everybody was like super stressed and like shaking in their boots.
Actually, just all sitting there really focused.
Yeah, just like super tense and focused. But like I was just like trotting along, like trying to find faces that I, recognized, because it was pretty early and I was trying to find as many people as I could. And it was pretty awesome. I like you'd think that the entire room would just be flickering noises echoing across the hall, but it wasn't really. It was pretty pleasant.
Personally, I fall asleep to that noise. Like, I cannot stand it.
I can't either. I can't either.
I understand why it's a thing. I think it's done for multiple reasons. I think partly it's just to kind of give your hands something to do. It's to help you focus. It's the reason fidget spinners were a thing for a while. I think it's
I'm
that.
fidgeting with this right now. Like
Yeah, I
it's
totally get it. I totally get that's the thing. It isn't for me personally. I don't feel like I need that, but I understand why people do, why it helps. I also understand that it's a little bit of a throwover from other games where actual hand placement can matter. Like
yeah.
for Magic, for instance, there are cards that are like take a card out your
Mhm.
opponent's hand, and so a lot of the time it's just to make sure that they don't know what the top deck was, or what the last drawn card was, and all that sort of stuff. So I get it, I get it, but I still don't like it.
Yeah, it's a little bit distracting to me sometimes if it's kind of loud and
Well, that's the other side. That's the other sort of more sort of I don't know, like bad faith take on it. I think is that it's purposefully done to irritate your opponent. I don't really think that's it. To be honest with you,
yeah.
I step as it says maybe if I keep rearranging my five uninkable cards, something inkable appear. I mean, yeah, you got to
Well, I
keep
mean,
looking, right?
I think it's funny you mentioned that because I try to stay pretty on top of the competitive sphere of Lorcana because something like commentating is things that I like to do, and I also like to play competitively myself. And this was something that came up not too long ago in one of the discords. They were talking about it, and like I'm going to say in the highest level of Lorcana play, they're genuinely concerned about people gaining information off of cards that they draw and then like ink. So I know competitive players that will not do anything other than draw the card off the top of their deck, like
Mm-hmm.
put it on the table. The table sees it before they do, is the way they
Yeah,
mention it. Then they pull it into their hand and they immediately shuffle their hand
yeah.
and then they'll ink a card
Yeah,
because they say,
I don't even want you to know that the thing I drew is what I did or didn't ink.
yeah, because
Insane.
because it can be telling if you draw a card and then immediately ink that card. You know, it might be telling of something, whether you have
Yeah,
another one of those in your hand or maybe you're desperate for ink and so you really
yeah,
needed that ink.
and obviously
So
that's information of a previous turn. But like, if they sort of take something, ink it straight away, and then be prepared, nothing you can do about it. But a real sort of top pro player will think, okay, so now I know what you look like when you're waiting for the seventh ink for a be
yeah,
prepared.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like it's as simple as that, right? I know they talked about it a lot on the on Let's Talk Lorcana before. Tells and things like that. And it is
Hmm.
just sometimes that. And I did notice quite a difference in the tables. Normally you don't really look at the players too much, but we were sat there looking at a screen that had the players' faces up, and quite a wide array of how people showed their emotion. And there were some
Yeah.
who were absolutely stoic all the way through, but there were other players who were very emotional in playing, sort of head in hands and
Yes, yeah.
heads on the table,
It's
and
so entertaining. I love
even
it.
just seeing like the wide eyes of an opponent as the what seems
Yeah.
like the 12th rabbit comes down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something I've never really noticed before, and until I sort of really was sort of looking at the games a little bit more analytically than perhaps I normally would.
I'm gonna call him out, so I hope he's not watching. But Zach Bivens is one of the like nicest people, nicest
Yeah,
competitive players that I know. There
yeah,
can be, I know there's like a little bit of a stigma for competitive players and then being kind of serious or mean or whatever. By the way, that's not the case for Lorcana. I heard there was some angle shooting happening on the play for, but like every single competitive player that I know and talked to in Atlanta was super nice. Even people that I was expecting to be a little bit like keep at arm's distance for me, and maybe that's just an insecurity thing on my part, but all of them that I talked to was super nice. But Bivens was featured at least twice,
hmm
and even around the day you could tell he was locked in. Like
yeah.
he was not approachable at all. And when we were casting the straight scream, he just had this like straight face.
Mhm.
And I've had conversations with him over Twitter before about the hand shuffling thing, and I noticed it on stream while we were casting. Him doing his hand shuffling thing, and it kind of cracked me up a little bit. But yeah, I'd like, especially in the finals match. you could see a lot of emotion on Matthew, I think, when he was
Yeah.
like trying to struggle to keep up with Joshua.
Yeah.
It made for some very entertaining games to watch. I was
Yeah.
really happy they had like the face cam there, and it wasn't just an overcam of the
Yeah.
board.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they often, they cut to hand cams a lot as well, which is quite
Mhm.
useful. Um, I don't know how you feel about this though. I almost feel like because I don't think we saw the hand cam in the earlier part of
I don't
uh,
think so.
the event, and that seemed to come on later. I don't know if that was a conscious choice or if it was a tech thing that wasn't set up originally. I don't know. But it makes it shifts very much how you watch and how you commentate and how you
Mhm.
appreciate the game.
Absolutely.
Knowing the hand and not knowing the hand. And also on day 2, it was open deck list. So moving from not
Mhm.
knowing the deck list to knowing the deck list is a big change. Personally, I think I actually just preferred seeing the faces and only knowing what was going on the board. Knowing the hand is, I don't know. I think I think I preferred seeing stuff come out. But then the other thing I will say about it is I think I've realized now that I'm much more of a color caster. I like seeing the bombs get thrown down without knowing they're coming, kind of thing. So maybe that's just
I think there's definitely a time and place for both,
yeah,
because I'll be honest, when Liam and I were casting, I was very happy that Liam was next to me, because we basically would, one of us would be talking about the play or what we thought was happening or what we were expecting. And sometimes when you're going into those thoughts, like we're freestyling all of it, for lack of a better term. Like we're just we're finding stuff to talk about and come up with. And so a lot of times we will miss what is happening on board as we're explaining something that might
yeah,
be relevant or that happened the turn before or things like that. And then normally, when I would finish a thought, Liam would just pick it up with whatever was happening next that I missed, and so on and so forth. But the hand cams added even more complexity to that,
yeah,
because, like, at least to my knowledge, there was no real reason when the hands were being shown and when they weren't. And so
hmm
sometimes I'm like hard focused on the board state, trying to think of the lines that are coming up for the next plays and how to explain that to the audience in a way that everybody would understand, like new players and experienced players, and for it to also be entertaining. And then I'll notice that, oh, I can see their hands, and that, like, I'm talking about this card that they might be playing or they might be playing around, and I might sound dumb because everybody's staring at their hand going, they don't even have that card. Like, what are you
yeah.
doing?
The
Um,
only the only one the only one I noticed was in the not the final, the semi-finals. The first time we were seeing Joshua's deck
yeah. Oh my
play
gosh.
out, and a couple of times, I think both of you and I would have 100% done this as well. I didn't cast one of his games, but both of you were like, "Oh, the Cinderella, she can sing all those 3-drop songs." And I'm
Yeah.
sitting there looking at the deck list on my screen. I'm like, there are no songs in there, guy. Like
Yeah. So,
she's just there for the fairy godmother.
So I'm not even sure that we had the deck list. Like, I think we were given Matthew and Joshua's deck list before the
Yeah.
finals in
Yeah,
paper.
there was an issue. There was an issue with the PPG registration of the deck that he had registered the correct deck, and they did have the correct deck list, but the one that was then added into the Inkdex listing was incorrect, I think, or there was definitely something there. There was no actual foul play at all. Like Joshua turned up with an Amber Amethyst deck, gave
Yeah,
that
yeah,
and it was all correct, right? But there was
yeah,
something
yeah.
in the reporting of it that mixed it up a little bit. So yeah, I don't think we had the actual deck list, but yeah, once we got hold of it, and I was looking, I was like, yeah, there's no that Cinderella's surely there as a
Yeah.
turn fairy godmother into a fox, basically.
Oh my gosh, dude. Like the panic that I felt when we went through the bracket of talking about Joshua and his Emerald Steel deck that we thought was Emerald Steel, because that's what it showed on the bracket, and going over the matchups. And then, like I said, we couldn't hear Tanan's interview. And so the interview comes on of Joshua, and supposedly he's talking about all these amber cards, or like somebody's talking about amber
Yeah,
cards.
I think I
Liam
put it in the little chat we were in, right?
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
and, like,
where's the
so
deck list right? Because he's talking about Piglet.
yeah, yeah, and so, like, I have my phone in front of me, and, I mean, I'm getting notifications all over the place through different stuff, and I
I know.
noticed somebody saying something about an amber card, and I'm like, "I don't know what's going on, I guess it's a stream thing," and then we open the stream and start talking, and I think I see him ink as an amber card, and I'm like, wait a second, what is
Yeah.
happening? And then Liam and I have to figure out, yeah, that's not emerald or steel, Brandon.
Yeah.
So then we have to just like on the fly figure out what's going on.
Yeah,
It was really fun.
it was good fun to watch, and I will say that as well. Like, I don't get me wrong, I don't. What we all did wasn't the most difficult work. We were sat
No,
there
no, no.
talking about the game that we all love, right? But it
Yeah.
is kind of, you've got the screen on. Like, I don't know what your guys' setup was like, but I've got the screen going here. I've got another screen that's a chat with our tech manager. I've got somebody in my ear. I'm obviously trying to pay attention to what Rebecca's saying to me, but usually I'm using the time that Rebecca's talking for me to start to make sure we know what's going on and get the next thing ready. You can, if you want to go back and play a drinking game, take a drink every time. Every time Liam says absolutely after Brandon's finished, and you can 100% tell that he said that as like, okay, Brandon's done. Now I'm going to say my thing that I've thought.
Yeah, exactly. That's all it is. Really, is like half listening to the person next to you talking and trying to figure out what the next thing is to say. But overall, it was really fun, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about the commentary aspect, but it's all that me and Jonti did, and it was extremely exciting.
Yeah,
and the majority of my
like it was new for us, and it's something we've really wanted to do, and we were, we did our best, and I hope that it seems like most people appreciated that, and also it was a remit from Ravensburger and Disney to kind of keep it as welcoming as possible and as open as possible, and as accessible is the word I was looking for. Sorry, accessible as possible. So, we tried to make sure that the games were really just described mostly, and what was happening was clear for newer players. And that's most of the positive feedback I've got is from people who were like, "Oh, I'm new to the game, but you really helped me, follow along and stuff." And that's why we're there, right? Like, if you're super up on this game and know exactly what you're doing, and just mute us, it's fine. It's cool. We're there to help people who maybe aren't quite up with it follow what's going on.
Yeah, this will be the last thing that I say about the commentary piece, and then I think there's some other stuff, some interesting stuff that we can talk about. I can't think of the word I want to use for this, but this experience really built confidence in myself and my own like ability to theory craft and play this game, because of the amount of times during commentary that I either was able to predict something that happened and then it happened, or me understanding a matchup really well, or even me prior to Scott asked a question a while ago. Sorry to have missed it, Scott, but I was planning to play. Like, I was planning to play in Atlanta, and so I only knew about a week, maybe a week and a half before Atlanta, the first day of Atlanta, that I was going to cast. So I was prepping to play, and I was planning to bring Amber Steel songs. I had a reason, Amber Steel song. Sorry, flute Steel song, Amber Steel. And I had a bunch of reasons for that, and what I expected the meta to look like, and what I expected to be at the top tables. And it was really nice because a lot of what I thought was happening, I got to the tournament and started happening. And there was a lot of nerves around being in the commentator seat, one of the people that's supposed to know this game inside and out and like be a good player. But I'm like not in the circles of the super, like I'm no Aaron Rubin, I'm no Zach Bivens, I'm no Andio. And Wetland, like sort of like feeling like whether or not I belonged. And so it was really awesome to see, like, to feel like after the fact that I sort of knew what I was talking about.
There's nothing more satisfying. It happened a couple of times for me, but there's nothing more satisfying than saying, "Oh, what I think he really wants to be doing here is ... and then they do it." See?
I played this game. I promise. But yeah, so the commentary was super fun. The decks that were played at this tournament were amazing. This would, like, notoriously set 3 being the most diverse meta of Lorcana so far, and I don't think you can argue that this has been the best meta of Lorcana so far, because of how you can just bring anything and do really well with it. But like, it was so exciting to watch people play deck lists that are ink combinations that we're familiar with and add their own spice to it. like I was talking in the official Lorcana Discord earlier today, and Dalton from Inkwell Gamers was playing Ruby Sapphire. If you haven't gone and watched his, I think it's Octo Final
Yeah.
game, you have to go watch it.
The first we saw that when you saw the larger Queen of Hearts come down, right?
Yes.
And I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was about to say. Like,
and
it's a list. Go ahead. Go ahead.
it was say if you go back and watch the tournament that we ran at my store that you and Franz commented on, and it was pretty much Ruby Amethyst all day. But you got excited if you saw that little tech piece in the deck just because there was a little bit of variation. You know, you got excited if you saw a spell book or if you saw a Pinocchio or something. But I felt like that. I felt like pretty much on the top 64 at least, pretty much every deck. They were all very different decks, different colors, but they all had that little they all had that little spice, right? And that I think that just shows you the level of deck building. That this is needed just to combat the meta. This is an answer, and it all made sense, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if I took away anything from watching the top players play in this tournament, it's that everybody added a little twist to what is normally a standard deck like that. And the deck that I was going to bring to play was just pretty standard. I honestly was going to take what the previous list that Aaron Rubin had posted and just bring that. But everybody that made it really far added a little tech piece. Like, some of the most exciting parts of the tournament, at least watching people play, was like when Zach Bivens played a Jiminy Cricket, and I was like, "What is happening?" And then to watch Dalton play that Queen of Hearts, and then see it work and see it do its thing, and then of course the biggest example of this being Joshua playing a deck that I have not seen a single person. I haven't seen this deck ever, and the fact that he was able to come in and win the entire tournament with it, and like the story of Ruby Amethyst since set one has been the deck to beat. It's been the dominating deck, the one that everybody can go to. It's consistent. It does well. And to meet Ruby Amethyst in the final round with this Amber Amethyst deck that I've never seen before, and to see the new deck take the championship was like a great representation of set three and just how diverse it was, and like I think people should see this and be encouraged that if you do go to a tournament, whether it's a large one like a Disney Lorcana Challenge or a small one like a set championship, or even just a small store one, like experiment a little. You don't have to like listen to what everybody says online, because I can guarantee you nobody said bring Amber Amethyst to Atlanta. Bring Amber Amethyst pretty to Mufasa. I didn't like, and you can, if you go back and watch, you can hear me try to figure out what the deck is before we knew what it was, because not only is it an ink pairing that we don't normally see, but when we do see it, it's usually some sort of hyper aggro variant.
Yeah, well,
so
we
that's
did.
immediately where I went to.
We saw Tia's game on the first day, and that was Amber Amethyst, but it was again the build you would expect. It was Lilo's and the Maleficent Binding of Times, and just a more of a, I don't want to say stock, because again, it still isn't a color combo you see a lot of, but a bit more of a sort of expected, rushing this stuff out really quickly and then getting an Arthur down and trying to win out that way. So that's kind of, if you said to me, go onto ink decks now and make me a Amber Amethyst deck you would expect to see, that's probably what I would do, right? Is that it's just a real low to the ground rush. So when you see Joshua's come down, that is arguably tempo, really, it is still doing a lot of stuff that you would expect to see from a tempo deck. It was just really good, and I guarantee, like, he piloted it fantastically. It was an incredible deck, but I guarantee a good chunk of his wins from day one will have been his opponent just going, wait, what?
yeah, exactly.
Like 100%, just the surprise factor.
I don't remember if I said it on stream or not, but I know I was talking to Liam, and I would know. I don't think it was on stream, because it was after the semifinal game, and we were talking about. I think we were told that Zan was going to lose the semifinal game before it was like live, even though we were still watching it. So we knew that that Joshua was going to play into another Ruby Amethyst. He was going to play Matthew. And as the commentator, I want to try to bring like the analytics, the matchup, bring all of that to the table. So when I see a deck that I've never seen before, I have to very quickly figure out how this deck works and functions and what it wants to do, so that I can tell other
Yeah.
people what it's supposed to do. And the more that I thought about it, the more I told Liam, I was like, I don't know how Joshua loses this. Like
Yeah.
this deck, just it feels like it does everything.
It's
And I
and
said,
it's like I just felt like Matthew played incredibly against it, just
yeah,
constantly
absolutely,
bad answers. He was running 3 copies of Be Prepared. In game 3, we saw all 3
all
of them.
three, yeah,
Just absolutely found those answers and played his heart out. But at some point, when you're just taking stuff off the board, you're just filling Joshua's other hand.
exactly,
We call
yeah.
discard, you know?
Yeah, that's what that's what I was saying. It's like if you're banishing cards, you're putting them in the discard for Perdita to pull back out, so that whatever you just did to banish it didn't matter. Or if they stay in the discard, you're making the Chernobog cheaper. But if you're not putting stuff in the discard, you're opening yourself up to a Mufasa being
It's just
played.
just a you lose-lose situation, right? He was just running 1 copy of Chernobog. It was also it was
Yeah,
an enchanted
an
as
enchanted one.
well.
Yeah,
So part of me does wonder whether he just pulled that and was like, "Well,
yeah, that's
better
going in
build a deck around it."
the deck. Yeah, yeah. I mean, heck, it worked. I don't know. It was, gosh, it was so fun.
It was just a real lot of fun. A couple of things I wanted to point out in the chat. First 20 points out. So you get cards like Kendall, who played the Ruby Amethyst list, who are just masters of it. And this is not to take anything away from people who are just taking a well played stock.
Yeah, yeah.
Deck. I mean, let's be honest, it is absolutely the right call. It is absolutely pick a deck that is doing well and hone it and learn it. 100% is the right thing to do. But from a viewer point of view and from a caster who are basically just viewers with a microphone, it's so much more fun to see the random
Yeah,
random cards and random decks.
and just to reemphasize that, yeah, Kendall did a great job. He made it into this top 16, I believe, and then lost one of his teammates. I got to meet Kendall, so it was cool to meet him. I think he lost to Zan, actually. And apparently there's actually a rivalry that's going on there, so I kind of wish
Oh,
that we
yeah.
could have casted that game. But anyway, like Matthew's deck list, the runner-up, like his deck list was very standard. The only things that were really different about it is he was playing 2 Yzmas and he was playing like a Chernobog's followers. And so like outside of that, every other card in his deck was I would expect to see in a Ruby Amethyst deck. And you could even argue those 2 cards. Like there've been metas where both of those are played in Ruby Amethyst pretty widely. So
Yeah, definitely. Yzma mostly found a home in Emerald Amethyst as like a little top end thing for him. But yeah, you definitely saw it in Ruby Amethyst as well. And it did come in clutch in one of his games. I think he played a Pinocchio to exert the Piglet, but then before going into it, Yzma the Pinocchio just to kind of see a little bit more of the deck and just kind of get more answers. So yeah, real solid play. Just played his heart out, played really well. But yeah, just his deck was just very difficult to deal with, and it was just a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how about the whole weekend? Then obviously we were sat behind the desk for the most part, but you will have got to see a bit of it regarding things like the side events and the prize wall and all of that. How do you think that went down?
It was interesting because Liam and I obviously weren't involved in any of it. Like we didn't need to be in Melee. Blake mentioned he saw my name in Melee earlier. There's kind of a funny story behind that. So like I said, I didn't get the call to cast till about a week or 2 out. And so as soon as it got confirmed, like, yes, this was happening, they sent the contract, whatever. I went to Eventbrite. Is that what it is? And refunded my ticket and didn't realize that also doesn't drop me from the tournament in Melee.
Okay.
So I didn't realize this, but after round 1, Liam and I weren't casting yet. The stream wasn't live. I was walking around and Joe Googly Glimmers was behind the curtain doing some of the feature match stuff. And I walk back there because it's in the same area that the broadcast area is in. And Joe walks up to me and he's like, "Brandon, you dropped round 1." And I was like, "What?" I just thought he was like being silly. And then he was like, "Why'd you drop round 1?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he pulls up Melee and shows me my name, and it's like me versus some other person, and it's just like
Oh, so you gave someone a 2-0?
yeah, and so apparently I just didn't show up to my match for round 1
Oh,
and
wow.
accidentally gave somebody a 2-0 into round 1.
It wasn't Franz, was it? I know Franz got a
No,
bye.
it wasn't. It wasn't fun.
He got a
I was
no.
surprised. So to say that, I was surprised. I'm going on a little bit of a tangent. There were quite a lot of people that I heard that didn't have a first round opponent show up.
Yeah, they're just they were signed up and everything, and then said like it's
Yeah.
it's gonna happen, especially at a big event like that. Even if 50 people do it, it's not even 1%. So like,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just kind of crazy, really, that they get that far into it, but then still don't show. I also heard a few people like made top 64, but then were like, no, I'm not going to carry on.
Yeah, I heard that too. I never saw it, but that oh my goodness, that's crazy to me, to be honest to
Yeah.
you. That you like we talked before Atlanta about just how difficult it was going to be. Imagine if you knew me, thought you were going to play in round 1 and he no shows. It's not personal. I'm sorry. I had no idea I was still signed up. I should have dropped from the tournament. Like I kind of feel bad about it. But yeah, like we talked about how difficult it was going to be to get to top 64 with even with the 1988 people that showed up. I mean, it's like a rough 3% of the top people make it in, and there were a lot of people that bubbled out. That's one, like, we don't have to get into the whole 2-game format thing, but I think that was something that was a little interesting to see. I think there were like 40 or 60 something people that like bubbled out of top 64.
40 something, I think, was the number I heard. Yeah.
For anybody that doesn't know what that means, it just means that only the top 64 made it to day 2, and you gain points throughout the day based on games that you won. And so after round 9, which was the last round, there were a bunch of people that had the same amount of points up to the number 60, but only the players number 60 to 64 moved on to day 2. And then everybody else below them that had the exact same score that they did and only was higher than them because of eventual tiebreakers got to move on to day 2. And it was quite a lot. I mean, 40 something people not getting into the
and I just want to point out that it wasn't random. It's based on the tiebreakers, which is like opponent win rate and things like that. So technically the 4 people that did bubble up did better, but only really because of how their opponents did, for the most part. So yeah, very difficult. And you always, bubbles happen quite a lot, honestly. Even at any scale, it's going to happen. You'll play a little 16-person tournament, and very often, like, 3rd and 4th place are the same win percentage, but it's their opponent win rate that makes it. So, so it can happen, but it does seem a little bit like the best of 2 format sort of accentuated that gap, or at least the best of 2 format with that many people going. 2-game format with that many people going to a top 64 cut seem to accentuate it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's weird because it's something that I've been thinking about throughout the weekend. Maybe it was 1978 or 1987 people because I didn't show up. But also, Liam asked a question earlier too. Could you have ghosted people 3 rounds in a row for Dragonfire? No, because apparently if you no-showed to a round,
dropped, I think, right?
you're just immediately dropped. It's not just a game loss. You're just dropped from the tournament. So I was dropped immediately after that. But what was I just, the 2-game format. I've been trying to think of how you could even make it better. And a thing that I keep hearing people say is it needs more rounds, which I agree. I think it does, especially for such a large tournament. The more rounds you play, the less people have those higher number of points. So it's a little bit easier to push people into a top cut. But oh my gosh, day 1 was already so long.
And you kind of want to finish the Swiss at day 1.
At day 1, you don't really want to go into day 2.
You want to let people. You want to let people know if they've not made the cut that they can make plans. They can do the side events. They can go and have a day out in Georgia. I don't know what there is to see, but you can. You really want to sort of have the day sort of finished off and capped off. I think so. That makes sense. But 11 rounds of Swiss. Ooh-wee. I mean, it was already
that would be a long day.
I think from me sitting here to me walking away was like 10 and a half hours. I think so.
Yeah, I don't think I left because we actually. the stream was delayed, but we also had to be there a little bit later. If I remember correctly, the tournament started at 10, I think, and then our call time was 11, so we had to be there at 11. But the stream didn't start till 12:30 or so, and I don't think Liam and I left till probably 10:30 or 11 that night.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it was a real long day. It might help if the cut was 128. I think so, although I think there was still a big bubble because that was obviously the cut off for the Let It Go, and it was okay because they gave it to point matches, right?
yeah,
So they gave more than 128s out, but again, I think somebody did the math and they found that even at a 128 cut, there still would have been quite a few that bubbled out. So like it's
yeah,
always going to happen to an extent. I do feel like it was slightly accentuated though. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, but Melee was having some issues from what I understand throughout the tournament. I don't know what those issues are. I just heard people say that there were issues. I think there may have been issues with pairings, or I know side events just blew up on day
Yeah.
two. I think like there was supposed to be a cap, but it just would go over the cap. And
Mhm.
so I remember walking into the exhibit hall on day two, and there's just a ginormous line of people
Yeah.
because Melee didn't work, and they were only allowing people to sign up for side events
Mhm.
in person, and people were having to wait quite a long time to get through and actually get the side event started. But I will say, even with some of that, from what I gathered, PPG, the actual organizers of the tournament, did a good job of like running the tournament. Like they did a fine job. It wasn't anything that like they could help. It was just that like Melee, the actual software that they were using for the tournament, was giving them a lot of issues.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm bored of saying that I don't love Melee, honestly, and don't love how it works and how it seems to hold up. So, but you know, it is what it is. It's what they use, so we deal with it. I do wonder whether the one thing that did surprise me when I looked at the sort of layout of the event and what was happening, I'm quite surprised there wasn't just a big tournament on the Sunday. For all the people
Mhm.
who didn't make it into top cut, just start all over again, same deck lists. Let's do a 3K or a 5K or whatever. I'm quite surprised that wasn't an option.
Oh
That you
yeah,
know what I mean. That usually is for these kind of things. I think is just
yeah.
one big tournament and not having to worry about. Well, I might go and do a little 3-round Swiss here and maybe a draft here, and that's fine for people who do want to sort of mix and match it a little bit. But a lot of people quite enjoy the idea of just one big tournament. You slog it out for the day. So I feel
Mhm.
like that might be a good thing, and that would also take off a lot of the strain of the smaller side event pods happening.
Yeah.
Because I think a good chunk of people would, you'd probably get 500 people just go and sit down and play in a new constructed one. So. I
Mhm.
think that would be the good. I think cash prize are off limits. Yeah, of course. When I say a 3K, 5K, in products, whatever, like it doesn't. I'm just sort of the scope of the event as opposed to actual pricing. A couple of cases as pricing, or even merchandise or whatever else. I think
Yeah.
that's really good. Yeah, just it would take a good chunk of people outside of the sort of smaller sort of delicatessen side events and help in a lot of ways. I feel. I don't know.
Mhm.
I know. Yeah, this is the other thing I wanted to talk about. Then was the prize wall. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so the prize wall. Then the way it worked is there were some tickets available from the larger event, but I think it was only the sort of
Mhm.
top few got them.
I
I
think
think.
so, yeah. I don't think
Um,
people got tickets just for playing.
no, I think you got so many if you had an attendee badge. You got some for just showing up. I think.
Yeah. Mhm.
And then obviously the other way to win them was to earn them, through the side events. So
Right.
through the constructed and the drafts, and I think they did sealed as well, right? So
Mhm.
um, in theory, great. I think the numbers seemed a little off though. It
Yeah,
seemed difficult to get.
I hate talking about some of the negative stuff. I feel like we have to because the experience was like phenomenal. So
Yeah,
don't let me bringing
yeah,
up the things that could have been done better make anybody think this wasn't an amazing experience. I'm gonna have
100%.
FOMO for all the
Yeah,
ones that I can't make, and I'm already going to more than I was expecting to go to. so, but with that in mind, yeah, the prize wall seemed a little bit like just the tickets didn't make sense for what you were getting. I never looked at what the actual ratios were because I couldn't participate in any of it. But the like t-shirts and the hats were more tickets than the non-foil Rapunzel and Cinderella promos, which was fine. I'm very happy they had those promos for people to
They were
earn.
amazing, yeah,
Yeah,
and definitely the thing that most people were sort of aiming at, I think, and I think that's really where the problem is. I would love a baseball cap, I would love a T-shirt, but if you make me play events all day to earn one of them, am I going to take a T-shirt or am I going to, take a promo card that's got a really great resale value, or even just the cards are always going to be worth more. If you look at the Rockstar Stitches from the set championships, the cards are worth way more than the mats, even though the cards are technically more prevalent. The cards are always going to be the chase things because it's a card game. It's what we play. We want the cards. So really, personally, I feel like the caps and the T-shirts, they should just be for sale. Like I don't know how the logistics of having enough of them. Ooh,
these are the non-foil ones.
Yeah, look at those. In between casting, Brandon was able to squeeze in some draft wins to earn the tickets for those, weren't you?
And I got a signed Dragonfire. This one's the actual foil one from Ryan Miller.
Yeah,
we got those. We just got those as a little thank you from the casting team, so they're really nice. But
a little
yeah,
$1,000 worth of promo cards right
well,
there.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
So officially, as your Lorcana commentator, your official Lorcana commentator caster, I'm not supposed to talk about like the monetary value of the prize wall, at least on stream.
On that stream.
On their stream. I'm not on the stream anymore, so I'm going to talk about it now. The prize, just like the ticket disparity between how much effort it took to get a T-shirt and hat, like you just said, versus getting the promos.
Yeah.
It was like making free money, like being able to. And actually, I heard that they were having issues where people were just signing up to an event and then dropping round ones because on day 2 they doubled all of the prize ticket payout because Melee was having issues and people weren't able to play in as many side events as they wanted to because of the long lines and stuff. But yeah, it was kind of crazy to me that the promos were, and I mean, Ravensburger didn't know that they were going to be selling for so much, I suppose, but like
I don't know whether it's not knowing or not acknowledging. I think it's a good move for a card game to not acknowledge the secondhand market on singles. Personally, like I do think that is the right call. I think that's a safe way to do it. Magic always pretends they don't, but it does. And Ravensburger will most likely take a similar stance of not, but kind of actually do. I think the official line has to be that they don't consider it. So as far as they're concerned, they're giving you a piece of cardboard, right? They sell you 12 of them for $6 in a pack, right? So that's how they have to think, I think.
But even with the prize tickets doubling, from what I understood, it was really difficult to get like the shirts and hats and stuff. And I don't know. I get that you need stuff at a prize wall that people want to play for. I think the things like these promos and the Cinderella Stout-Hearted playmat and even sealed product is enough. People have been trying to rep Lorcana merch since we heard about Lorcana. Like you could overcharge out of the wazoo for those shirts and hats, and people are still going to buy them. I was jealous of the judge staff because they got really cool like Lorcana shirts. They had lovely, to wear
like button ups with the challenge logo on the shoulder, the crest. Sorry,
and I couldn't participate in side events to earn, a T-shirt or a hat or anything. And I've wanted a T-shirt or a hat that I could rep for forever.
Keep wearing that thing for now, don't you?
I know, yeah. I just got to keep wearing the bucket hat. By the way, let me talk about this for a second. So many people asked me if I was wearing the bucket hat on stream, and then were disappointed when I told them no. And this is why. You see how stupid this thing looks when it's smashed against my head because of the headphones. And the headphones we were wearing were much bigger than these. Like they went all the way over my ears. So I just looked dumb anyway. I don't know, and it wouldn't.
You could have just stopped that sentence at how stupid this thing looks. You didn't keep going.
No. It looks fine when it's not smushed like this.
Oh, okay.
But Yeah, so that's the reason I wasn't wearing the bucket hat on stream. And then also, this is just a fun little bit. So the first day, I'll be honest, I was
Headphones
very
then hat. Sorry, we need to see headphones then hat.
headphones then
Does
hats.
that even work?
It's not even any better. I don't think the hat would actually like fit over the headphones. Anyway, what was I even saying? Oh yeah, so I'll be honest. The first day, I was really nervous because when I got there Friday, I showed up to the area, got in and got my badge with the production crew. Nobody else is really admitted back there except for the judge and like staffing people for PPG because they were still trying to set stuff up. And it was really hot in that room. I don't think they had the AC on, and they had like some of the doors open to the outside so that trucks could come in and they could unload a bunch of stuff. And it like Atlanta's just hot in general.
Sure.
And so I got kind of overheated that day, and I ended up like going to bed early because I wasn't feeling great. There was obviously a lot of nerves around commentating the next
Oh,
day,
sure.
and so I was really concerned about like overheating on the first day because that's when I was in shorts and a t-shirt and wearing the bucket hat, and I was going to have to wear a full suit with a jacket the next day.
Yeah.
And so I was really nervous about that. And luckily, it was much cooler the second day when all the players were actually in there. It actually wasn't too terrible. But for a long time, the first day, I was walking around without the bucket hat on because this thing is not breathable. Like, I don't know what sort of material it is, but it's not breathable at all. And it makes my head really hot. And the amount of times that I would walk past people, they'd recognize me and they'd go, "Oh my gosh, Brandon B. Squared. Hey, my name's whatever." And I was so excited to talk to them. And they'd go, "Why aren't you wearing the bucket hat?" It was like, it was so much that I eventually just started carrying the bucket hat with, like, I wouldn't wear it around normally. And then when I would walk out of behind the broadcasting thing, I'd put it on and walk around because so many people were disappointed that I wasn't
Say,
wearing the bucket hat.
you can't moan about people asking for it after you make it such a thing.
Yeah. So I learned my lesson, and I'll be in Chicago, so you guys can guarantee that the bucket hat will be on at all times after that. It was fun though.
But overall, I think it was an incredible success. Both weekends were honestly, Lille seemed to go down pretty solidly as well, and like I say, all of those issues. I feel like it's difficult, right? Because I think we do have to address them because the whole reason for this show was for us to report on the week in Lorcana, right? And that includes the good things and it includes the bad things, because I think it's, our integrity as content creators is very important, especially when we build or continue to build a relationship with Ravensburger, where you see us doing things officially. I think it's important to hopefully have you folks remember that we can't necessarily be bought. We're very happy to work with them and hope we continue to be. But obviously it's still important for us to remember that we are still just fans of this game as well, and we want to see the best for it. So I think it's worth pointing out when there are slight issues. But honestly, I'll say that they were slight issues. I think this is all stuff that can be figured out. I think just have to get the ratio of the prize tickets sorted, perhaps have a few more options. There were vendors there. They were only allowed to sell singles, which I think is perfectly fine, but have an official booth selling boxes as well, right? Like, why not? Why wouldn't you just be able to walk in and buy a box? I feel like, yes, continue to have it as a prize, work towards it if you want to, but I feel like you should totally be able to go in and just buy at least the new set. It would be kind of crazy if they had a pallet of first chapter sat there at MSRP, right, at this point. But vendors did sell sealed. I was told they weren't. I was told they weren't selling sealed.
So I don't think they could, like, I think they had to seal, or they had to sell things. I don't know if this is going to make sense. Completely sealed, like you had to buy a box, or you had to buy a trove, or you had to buy a Lumineers quest. You couldn't buy like 3 packs or whatever.
Okay.
At least that's what I was told, because I was prepared to buy a pack to do a pack battle on stream here, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to get one before then. And I asked a couple of the vendors, "Hey, do you guys have any packs versus return?" And one of the vendors eventually said, "No, we're not allowed to sell them." And so I was like, "Oh, okay."
That's interesting. And the vendors' boxes were market price. Yeah, personally, I would like to see Ravensburger just be able to sell product there and sell merch, like t-shirts.
Yeah.
They're great and they're awesome, but they shouldn't be gated behind winning 2 or 3 drafts. I'll give you $30 for one, man. Like, just come on, it's a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Keep those Cinderella playmats. They were amazing. Make those, a few hundred
Oh,
points. Make them super difficult to
okay.
get hold of.
Yeah, so that was the thing. The Cinderella playmats were unbelievably difficult to get. Like,
Yeah.
I think somebody did the math and they were like, I don't think a single person would have had enough time to grind the side events all weekend to
Yeah.
on their own like get 100 tickets you needed for the playmat. And
Yeah,
it took
because
a
we
lot
thought.
of people piling tickets together to like submit and to actually get the playmat.
I think like before the doubling of tickets or whatever, it was like a winning event was like 9 tickets. I think that's how
I
it
think
worked.
so.
Like if you entered and won a 3-round Swiss draft, you get 9 tickets,
Mhm.
and the playmat was 100 tickets. So 11 events. 11
Yeah.
events? No, 12. No, 11 events would give you 99.
You'd have one short.
Yeah, but you got. I think you got 6 for being an attendee. I think so.
Oh,
Like
okay.
10 events or 11 events. It's just not possible. Most of these drafts were taking a couple
No.
of hours, right? So yeah, 3-0. Oh, there we go. So 3-0,
Gets you
3-0 with
7.
7, and
Yeah, it
okay.
gives you
So 3-0
7
got you
plus
7, and
2.
then 2 just for turning up. Yeah, so 9 points if you won the thing. So you had to guarantee that you were winning 10 drafts
Yeah.
over the space of 30 hours or
I don't
whatever it
even know
was.
if that was possible. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
if you could have
No,
played
and I
in
think
10 events
and I
and
think that Steadfast pointed out that it became 18 if you 3-0'd because that was the
yeah,
numbers
because
were
it
up,
doubled the
right?
next
Yeah.
day, yeah.
But I don't feel like
But
they
that
were
was
doubled because of
because
issues. I think they were probably
yeah,
doubled because they were like, "We haven't given any of these mats away yet."
from my understanding, it was because they doubled because of the melee problem. I don't think they were intending to double the tickets the
Mhm.
next day.
Yeah. All of the PPG staff were awesome. My buddy left for lunch when he finished round 3 and missed his Dragonfire. He got the round a little late. The judges had gone to the front, but I talked to George and he took care of him, was super nice about it. Yeah, George's a legend. The PPG staff were incredible. I
Mhm.
mean, everyone there on the floor, I'm sure, did the most
Yeah, did an
amazing job
awesome
they
job.
could. And
Albert, the head judge, did really
yeah,
awesome too,
none of these issues were because people were making bad decisions. It's just that many people in a room. It's just going to take them a little while to figure that sort of stuff out.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, if you go undefeated, you also got 2 bonus tickets, which made it 18. Yeah, so 2 for entering, which they doubled to 4, 7 got doubled to 14, which I think that's how you got 18. I don't know. But yeah, they ended up upping it, and it meant that some people, and I don't even mind like the idea. I saw a dad and his kid like grind events, and they put their tickets together to get a mat, and like that's great,
Mhm.
and apparently every time somebody turned in tickets for a mat, they hold it up and there was a big cheer from the people
Yeah,
in the area.
yeah.
So it's good to have something that's like, like the golden goose of those side events. I think it's good to have that, but I also think you should be able to go in a draft and go 2-1 and be able to get
Something.
a non-foil promo or a few
Yeah.
packs or whatever. So yeah, I think they just run the numbers a little bit on that and make some of the stuff a little bit more accessible, I think, but I'm sure they'll have it down before Chicago.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing too. The staff that I've talked to and I've seen in different discords, like they are actively fixing and working on problems that they found in Atlanta.
Mhm.
Not so that like it's something that they fix 5 months from now, but
No.
like they're Chicago will be better than Atlanta was, and
Yeah.
Chicago's in 2 weeks. And like they're
Yeah.
hardworking, they're excited to make it happen. Like the same thing goes for the broadcasting team and everything that happened with the broadcast. Same thing with everything going on in the judge floor, and they're all taking in everybody's feedback, and like they want this to be the best event possible. And it was already a great event because there were so many awesome people there. But it's only going to get better
Yeah.
as they can just fine tune and figure out, where they need to adjust things. But overall, it was a phenomenal experience. And I honestly thought I was going to be, I mean, I am really exhausted after the event,
Mhm.
but I was expecting to be exhausted in a way where I was maybe not exactly looking forward to Chicago just yet because
Uh-huh.
Chicago's so soon. But like, I'm so excited for Chicago. I can't wait to to go in 2 weeks, even though that I know there's not going to be a ton of time for me to really rest and recuperate over the next 2 weeks.
And figure out set 4 as well, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure you're the same. As soon as I got the sort of contact for this, I completely just was like, right, okay, forget set 4 then. I'm really going to try and focus on set 3 as much as I can. So
yeah, I mean, even knowing that I was gonna originally play in it, like I just wasn't focused on set 4 at all. I obviously paid enough attention to it as a content creator to make content over it and do some of the stuff like that, but I was locked in on set 3. I actually made a tweet about it earlier today where I was just like, okay, the Atlanta Disney Lorcana Challenge couldn't have ended any better than it did to recap set 3. But like set 3's behind us. What the heck is happening in
set
set
4
4?
look like? Yeah, I need to forget about Petitas and fairy godmothers.
Yeah.
Matt here says the main event itself went really smoothly, which I think is really important to know. Yes, absolutely. Apart from the a couple of issues with the melee loading, I think all I can tell is that it went incredibly. Never seemed to have any issues there regarding people. People were like, "Oh, I struggled to find my seat." Yeah, there's 2,000 people there, man. Like, it's going to take you 5 minutes. Like, that ain't going to get perfect each time. And that was the other thing I saw a lot of people ask for was artists. Artists doing sign-ins would be a really good get as well.
I agree. That's something that I wanted to see, were the artists there, so just bringing them, getting them involved in some way. But I'd even say the seat organization was really cool. They had different sections, and they were all based on the 6 different ink colors. So, like, I didn't pay too much attention to it because, again, I wasn't playing. But I imagine after sort of figuring out, the 100 through whatever seats are amber and whatever seats, it got a little bit easier to.
I wonder how many of the competitive players were like, "Well, where's purple?" I don't know why. It just seems like competitive players only ever use the colors and not the ink names. Apart from steel.
Oh, that's another thing. IPA mentions that people really wish that they could have watched what was being streamed at the event, because I realized as the day went on, that doesn't matter too much when we're in round 2 of feature matches, but nobody at the event got to watch the final match. Unless they all pulled it up on their phone and like watched it instead. And even then, we are a little bit behind what's actually happening. So while Liam and I were actually commentating the final match, Ryan was giving the award ceremony to Joshua in the same building.
You could hear them in the background.
Okay, you could hear them announcing in the background. Liam and I were trying our hardest to ignore what Ryan was saying and not hear whose name got called as the champion, because we were in the middle of casting it. But from what I understand, that was something that was supposed to be there. Like, there's supposed to be a way for people to watch the stream. And I don't know why it wasn't, but it wasn't there. So I'm expecting that to be something that they add.
Yeah. Again, it seems like a lot of this is coming together perhaps a little bit later than they would like it to, and it's all just going to get ironed out as these move forward. I think anyone who was there, I'm sure, had a lot of fun and can say that they were at the first ever one in North America, and that's always going to be something special that you've got. But it will be interesting to see how these develop over the season.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll do a couple of our regular features. We're going to start with a You Made Me Ink.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll do a You Made Me Ink. This is before we start, I will remind people what You Made Me Ink is. This is our version of Card of the Week. So we're going to take a look at a card that has sort of become known to us through the week. And normally, Card of the Weeks, anywhere else you see them, it's usually because it's a card that they've enjoyed playing. But we actually try and pick something that has caused us issues. So either we've played against it or something like that. So this week's card of the week, You Made Me Ink, is Fairy Godmother, Pure Heart.
I gotta figure out what this does real quick.
I need to Google this and see what the hell this card does. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So anyway, obviously Jonti and I haven't been playing a ton of Lorcana over the past week because we've been preparing to commentate. But the reason that Fairy Godmother Pure Heart is our You Made Me Ink is because Joshua playing this with the Cinderella in his deck that was already something we had no idea what it was. The moment, I'll give you a little bit of behind the scenes on the commentary. The moment we saw Fairy Godmother being played, Liam shot to his phone, went as fast as he could to the like Lorcana site of choosing to find cards, to look at cards, and like
I'm gonna shout out Surreal. It's Dreamborn Inc., man.
yeah,
That's
he went
where we
to
go.
Dreamborn Inc. He Googled Fairy Godmother Pure Heart and laid it there on the table so that we could actually read out what the heck the card did, because neither of us knew
And
what this card
I
was.
was just watching at this point. I'd sort of settled down into the afternoon and was just ready to watch in between my casting. But I did the exact same. He put it down. I was like, oh man, I like quickly Googled it on my other screen.
Yeah, so like I don't remember which one of us started the waffling, but one of us just like started talking, knowing the other one was having to find the card, so that the other one could pick up when we finished and actually tell the audience what the card actually did.
Plays down a fairy godmother, and that's a really interesting play. And I'm gonna tell you why that's interesting. Because, the reason why that's absolutely fascinating, actually, is because
yeah, I think I actually
recasted Inkable.
So I think I don't remember what I said, but I think the way I passed it off is I literally said, "So Liam, why don't you tell us what Fairy Godmother Pure Heart
absolutely
does?"
threw him under the bus.
Well, no, because he finally pulled it up, and then I saw he had it there on his phone, and as soon as I saw he actually had it, I had no idea what the heck it does, so I wasn't about to talk about it, and just threw it to Liam and was like, "You take over this."
That's
It
amazing.
was very funny.
Yeah. So it is a 3-costed Inkable 3/4 with 1 law, Storyborn ally fairy, with the ability just leave it to me. Whenever you play a character named Cinderella, you may exert chosen character, common card with art by Matt Chapman. Yeah, I mean, what else is to say about it? It's a pseudo fox, in some ways. You know, it comes down on 3, doesn't really swing out. Then next turn, Joshua was running the 1-drop Cinderella Singer, Ballroom Sensation. I think.
Yeah, I think that's it.
And then instantly you've got a 3/4 that trades into foxes, goes into snake and survives. You know, really, really interesting in card, and basically it's sort of just up in your 3 count. Up in your 3-drop count, and then also Cinderella. Was he also running Pinocchios?
No.
The list up
So
here.
that
He wasn't running Pinocchios. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that I found really interesting with this tech. It's something that I've really appreciated about Joshua's list as a whole. It's an extremely unconventional one, and like if I I would have never landed on half of the cards in his list. I would have gone in a completely different direction. And for the longest time, we've had Pinocchio, Talkative Puppet. That's the
Yeah.
sub name. Pinocchio Talkative Puppet, which is an uninkable 2-cost 1/1 card that just says when you play Pinocchio, you can choose an exerted character. It's also an Amethyst, and that's just been the go-to card that you've seen people in Amethyst play when they need to force exert a opposing character, because you just need the 1 card for it. Fairy Godmother, Joshua used really, really well because you still have that ability and the stats are so good. So you can play the Fairy Godmother, you can play the Cinderella, exert something, and then use the Fairy Godmother to challenge into it, or use one of your other characters to challenge into it. And then because of specifically how Joshua's deck worked, if the Cinderella got banished, then you could play a Perdita and use your Perdita to bring the Cinderella back from your discard and play it from your discard. And then that triggers the Fairy Godmother ability again.
If
and
she's already out,
yeah, if she's already out. So as long as you have the Perdita in play, or you have one in hand that you can play, you can sort of surprise your opponent through that way. Or like if a Cinderella's in the discard, you kind of always have to be considerate of that happening. And like after seeing him actually play the card and play the combination, it was like genius. It was like, wow, this is so smart. And I never would have considered this, because I would have said I'll just play Pinocchio Talkative Puppet, which would have been a much worse tech card for what his deck was trying to do and into the matchups that he played into.
Yeah, absolutely. And also Katie makes a good point, and like less of a deal than that, but also definitely something to bear in mind is that, you know, you see a 1-drop Cinderella, you're instantly going to start thinking, especially if he inks an amber card and you have no idea what you're going into. If you see an amber card go into the inkwell and a Cinderella come down, you're thinking, okay, right, I've got to watch out for Let the Storm Rage On. I've got to look out for Strength of the Raging Fire. You know, you're instantly going to start thinking about all of the songs that she can sing. Less so, I think, if you see an amber card before her, an amethyst card before her, excuse me. But even then, you see a Cinderella one drop, you're thinking, well, what songs have we got to deal with?
Yeah. Yeah. And you can hear me in the semifinals when as Liam and I are actively trying to figure out what this deck is doing, because we were hitting surprises at every corner with
Yeah.
Joshua's deck. That was the first thing that I went to when I saw the Cinderellas. I was like, oh yeah, you can play the Cinderellas, and you couldn't see my face, but I was like digging deep into my Lorcana card knowledge, trying to think of all the 3-cost songs that might be played in Amber and Amethyst. And of course, I think I mentioned like Friends on the Other Side and a couple other ones.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until the finals that we got the paper deck list, and I realized, oh, Joshua's not running a single song. So like, yeah, the point that you made about having the Cinderella and the opponents thinking, oh, what songs can he play? Like, yeah, I did it. Like, it probably fooled a bunch of other people that he played against,
That's just I just want to put a real background to a message from Patches here. Future the cast is having an iPad with the Lorcana app on for card references and maybe deck lists for later rounds. So first of all, for the most part, you don't need to be looking up cards. We know, it's your job to know these cards.
Yeah.
And 99% of the time, you're commentating on a meta deck, and you know exactly what's going to be coming out. You know what to expect. So that isn't so much of an issue. There were like a couple that I just had to reference to make sure I got the stats right, because they're sometimes a little bit difficult to read, and it's stuff you don't see quite as often. The one that really got me was the Lyle Tiberius Rourke. Just could not remember his stat line, and it's not a card I see often, so I had to check him out. But also, we were given deck lists on day 2 because it was open deck lists at that point, so we were able to them. But it was kind of this perfect storm that there was a technical issue with Joshua's deck reporting, and we didn't have it. The rankings had him playing Emerald Steel all day.
Yeah.
And we mentioned this before, but I'll just go around and say it again. It was only until we saw the interview. The pre-game interviews with both Joshua and this was pre-semi-final, so it would have been Joshua and was it Albert? I think.
Yeah, I think it was Albert. Yeah.
And I was sort of half paying attention, checking Twitter or whatever, and Joshua was like, "Oh, I really want to try and get the Mufasa online." I was like, Mufasa?
Mufasa.
Emerald Steel? Yeah. Mufasa?
We couldn't even hear that. Like, Liam and I didn't even have that.
So I quickly type into the thing, is like, are we sure this is right? Because he's talking about amber cards. And then the next interview, Alfred was said, oh, really, if he gets that Piglet online. I'm like, Piglet?
What are we talking about?
Piglet, but that's set 4. So the players knew what was going on, because obviously they're on the floor, they're seeing each other play, like they know exactly what the deck's going up against. But we're working with the sort of tech sheets and what have you, and you could all of us, like me and Rebecca at home and the guys there on the floor, you could just say we have no idea what this guy is playing. But it was all correct. He put the right deck.
Yeah, that was.
It was just an issue with pushing out the public deck lists, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was so funny because, like, not only were we surprised by the Joshua's ingenuity in building the stack and bringing it to the tournament and winning the tournament with it, but if you look at the PPG like top 64 deck list, like Spiral, Amber Amethyst isn't even on the list. Like, they just completely missed it. And so, like, not only did he trick all of his opponents throughout the day, like stepping them up or like tripping them up by playing this crazy deck, but even those of us in production missed it apparently, and he snuck his way through.
But yeah, it was awesome. Absolutely played his heart out and played it perfectly. It was really great to watch. We'll move into a quick mainstream market watch. Sorry. And as you can probably guess, we're going to take a look at a couple of cards that have had a bit of a change around this week. I'm just going to quickly refresh this because it has been updating through the day. It's 980, okay. So first of all, we have Perdita. Again, another real integral part to Joshua's deck. Just running loads of the ground stuff and being able to bring them back out of the discard. Just got so much value out of it. And I think it's interesting. When Perdita was revealed, I remember thinking, oh, this could be pretty good. But then just never really seeing much come of it. And I know a few people have since, after the weekend have been like, oh, yeah, I've been really trying to make this work. And trying it with different colors and just loads of low to the ground stuff. The only place I really saw this shine before the weekend was in a set 3 draft. Somebody managed to draft a Perdita and 2 of the little ruby stitch rushes.
Stitches, yeah.
And it was just insane in a draft format, just to be able
Yeah,
to
it's
have these
good.
3-1 rushes that just keep coming back from the dead.
Yeah.
That was, but before then, that was the only time I could ever really think of Perdita coming into my mind at all. So, really great to see Josh sort of figuring her out and getting an absolute ton of value out of her. I mean, that deck, it did also run the Shift Fairy Godmother that allowed stuff to come back to your hand after banish, but I don't think we actually really saw that.
I don't think so.
Like get online at all, but we did see Perdita, and the deck also ran a copy of Chernobog. I think once we saw that come down, perhaps.
Yeah, in the semifinals matches, the Chernobog was really, really big.
Yeah, but we did see Perdita consistently just do an absolute ton of work. 6-costed, uninkable 1/6 with 2 lore, and then when you play this character, and whenever she quests, which she will, you can play a character with 2 or less from your discard for free. So yeah, we just saw absolute ton of value there. Very often bringing back the Cuzco, which I thought was a really great play. Just to kind of be like that be prepared proofing, basically. Just I'm going to get a card draw off this. I'm just going to be able to keep really refilling my hand. And honestly, in that final, like I say, between the Cuzcos and the rabbits, Joshua never had an empty hand.
No,
every be prepared was 3 things going back down afterwards every single turn. It was just crazy to see.
Yeah, it's the closest thing to like a toolbox stack that I've seen in Lorcana, which I love because I'm a huge fan of toolbox stacks. And even when Perdita was revealed in set 3, like you said, I looked at the card and I said the same thing. I was like, this could be really good. And I wanted to make it work, but I toyed with an Amber Ruby deck. And I think that's where a lot of people went as well. Same thing with where a lot of people have taken Mufasa. And it just didn't quite work out. Apparently, we were just pairing it with the wrong color this whole time. But one of the things that I just like had so much joy watching Joshua do with this deck was he would play the Perdita, and then he basically had 3 cards that he could take back from the discard. You had the Cusco, which was great because it's just another character on board, like you said, that can quest and gain lore. If it gets banished in return, you just draw another card and you find more answers and more characters you can play and keep the pressure on. Or if he was in a advantageous position, or if he was really close to winning, he could bring back a Piglet, and it's really synergistic with the Piglet because you already have the Perdita on board, so you only need 1 more character on board, and the Piglet has 3 lore. Now your opponent has to get rid of that, but then if they get rid of that, you can play another Perdita and just bring it right back, and it creates this really annoying scenario. Or you could pull back the Madame M Snake and bounce a card that was really valuable back to your hand that you didn't want to be banished. And so like people have been referencing this deck a lot as a Mufasa deck, but I really think the Perdita was like the engine that was happening.
I agree. I mean, I think I called it like Amufasa, just as a kind of a play on the Mufasa or the Green Fasa, but just because that's kind of the naming convention that we've come up with these. And Mufasa did put a bit of work in, but I didn't. It kind of showed why I'm not a huge fan of the card. I think the one time it was just a bit Pascal came down, and you're like, well, cool, Pascal on the board later into the game on its own isn't super. But yeah, Perdita just being able to go and pick very much a toolbox deck. I think it can be referred to as like a zoo deck as well. Sometimes just lots of different characters that all do solve a different problem, and you can sort of you bring back what you need. Just make sure discard another hand, and then worst case, bang, Chernobog just comes down, and grabbing a Piglet after a board wipe is 5 lore next turn because obviously the Perdita can quest and just go and grab something else, put it back down before the Piglet quests. I've always said that the skill level of this game is all about doing stuff in the right order. Really, that's what really ups the complexity of the game for me. A lot of other TCGs, they have a set pattern of this is where you fight, this is where you play cards, this is where But one of the real scope for the game for me is the fact that you can do all of this stuff in any order. So yeah, that's being able to quest the Perdita, bring something back, and then quest with the Piglet, just absolutely awesome.
Yeah, and because of that, we see a little spike. I think she like probably doubled in.
Yes, I mean it's not it's from $4 up to $8 or whatever, but still just shows you that two games he was shown for on stream. Two matches,
No,
sorry.
two
matches. He was the semis and the final, right?
Yeah.
So 2 matches on stream. Saw in a tournament that was ending a meta. And we saw the card double, perhaps even more than double. Let's have a look. It's gone from 462 up to 6. Yeah, no. So not quite double yet. Even they're up to like 980 to actually purchase them, and that's a lightly played one as well. Let's have a look. Yeah, so $10 from like an average of the market price up to 846. Yes, it's not even updated fully on the graph. So yeah, it's doubled in price basically.
Mm-hmm.
To see a legendary double in price off the back of one deck in 2 matches on a live stream is just insane. Just absolutely just shows you how defining it can be to see something do so well.
Yeah. And I'm eager to see if this deck like sticks around. I'm sure a lot of people are wanting to try the deck now that Joshua won with it. But after the finals had finished and we'd concluded in Atlanta, I went back to the Airbnb with all the guys I was rooming with, and we started talking about set 4 decks and stuff we wanted to test and try. And I was talking about how impressed I was with this Amber Amethyst deck and how I think maybe it has game into some of the Ember Steel or Emerald Steel and Ruby Sapphire decks, which are some of the more prominent decks being played right now. But this deck gets like,
I think it gets destroyed by Ruby
I don't think it gets much in set 4 that changes the deck at all. Like, I don't think there's particularly better options in the new Amber and Amethyst cards that we've gotten. So I'm eager to see if the deck like stays the same, if people try to tech set 4 cards into it, and if it can even hold up, or we see it played at all in set 4 because of Joshua coming in and like it's like a brand new deck. Like nobody's been playing this, and like
it's very good
fun. Found this new thing that people are going to want to try.
Elliot makes a good point here that it's kind of sort of anti-Tremaine tech, but we're even now seeing less and less Tremaines for Medusa seems to be more in favor there. The reason why I don't think this is great, and also take all of this with a pinch of salt because I didn't see this deck coming at all, right? But for me personally, just the one on Perdita, the Sisus and Brawls and all that sort of stuff just really seems to really struggle. Stuff with lower strengths seems to really struggle against it, I think. Although saying that, I just wanted to go back here. Sorry, IPA says Floodborn Godmother is up as well. Funny you should mention it. I also have that one up to have a look at as well. Again, less of a notable change here because while she was prevalent in the deck, I don't really think we saw her ability get used as much. Completely understand while she's there, she's going to help this much lower to the ground deck deal with bigger threats if it needs to. With that challenger boost, it's going to help them deal with locations. Pretty much Queen's Castle, let's be honest, is the one that they're going to have to worry about, I think. So I totally understand why she's there. You're already playing the smaller one. She's inkable. So yeah, makes sense to me. Do you have any thoughts on this one?
No, I kind of wish we saw it played more because I could see what Joshua was doing with it. When you play a deck using Perdita, you obviously want to play a lot of cheaper characters, or at least some key cheaper characters. And there were quite a few. Like, part of the reason Perdita was strong was because the characters that Joshua was bringing back from the discard were strong in the Piglet Snakes and Cusco's. And having the ability to use this Fairy Godmother with the Cinderella exert combo that he was using, so you can shift this Fairy Godmother onto the small one for really cheap, and like your board being a little bit weaker than normal because he's also playing like rabbits and other things that just don't have terribly a lot of strength. Amber Amethyst also has a difficult time with wide boards and just removing in general because they don't have the only card I think that they have available to them. Well, there's a couple, but they're very conditional, right? Like you have World's Greatest Criminal Mind, but it has to have 5 strength or more. You have Yzma that can put a character back in the player's deck, and then they draw 2 cards. But like
Yeah.
they don't have great removal options, so you have to really make sure that when you're challenging opposing characters, you're getting a lot of value out of it, and it's not just a one-for-one trade.
Yeah.
Fairy Godmother just does a really, really great job of, like, being a surprise shift in an advantageous state where not only are you buffing up those, like, Cuscos that you wanna be banished anyway, but you're buffing up all these cards that you wanna play again probably, and you can use them to challenge into stuff, and if they are banished, they just come right back to your hand so you can replay them. And, like, I was waiting and hoping we would see this go off with Mufasa because
Mm.
you can play the Fairy Godmother, quest with Fairy Godmother, give Mufasa Challenger +3. Now he's challenging for 6. He challenges into something, gets banished, and like banishes the other thing. But instead of going into the discard, he comes back to your hand, and you still get the Mufasa
But
trigger.
that's trigger, yeah. How
Yeah,
good.
you can still play something off of the top of your deck, and so
I
like
mean,
there's some super insane combo stuff you can
that's
do there.
that's obviously the real sort of top play of the deck. Like that would be so good to see. But even
Yeah,
just having a rabbit on the board and then shifting this, and your rabbit's suddenly
yeah,
a 5/3 that
exactly.
draws you a card and comes back to your hand. Just like yeah, wow, just really really great. Yeah,
Hmm.
I the people in my local group afterwards were like, "I knew this card was good. I told you this card was good." And I'm like, I don't think the card is necessarily good.
Good, yeah.
I think a very good player and a very good deck builder has figured it out.
Yeah, like,
But
this
don't all
card
just go
is
and buy 4 of these and throw it into something.
no.
That's not how
As
this works.
No, I was talking to somebody on the ride back, to the Airbnb who was saying something similar, and I was like, "I don't think this card is good. I think the card's good in this deck." Like, the thing that this deck is doing, Fairy Godmother's really good in something like that, but, like, you look at a card like Madame Medusa, and it's like, she goes in every Ruby deck. She
Yeah.
is just a good card. It doesn't matter what the deck is trying to do. Fairy Godmother is not that. Fairy Godmother is good in these specific situations that are catered for her to be good around. So yeah, but it's a fun idea. It's a really fun idea. I'm kind of hoping that it does stick around just
Yeah.
so that people can play it more.
Casey says, I'm excited for the hero deck to become more powerful with Felicities. With Perdita and Stitch both being heroes, I hope that my dream of a Rockstar Stitch resurgence. I'm not a deck builder, so I'm hoping. I would love to see. I think if anyone does figure it out, I think that's the line: is just loads of really low to the ground heroes and Rockstar Stitch,
Mm.
honestly. And if you can squeeze Pride Lands in there, and then you really start to just like absolutely churn through your deck and gain lore. But again,
Yeah.
it's a big setup. You've got to have a Pride Lands out, you've got to have something on it, you've got to have a Rockstar out and a Philatices out. Like
Yeah, it's a lot.
it isn't going to happen. But if it does, ooh-wee.
Yeah. Katie, I'm on your team because I'm Amber Steel is my favorite ink combination, and like I've tried to make Perdita work. I'm a huge Stitch fan, if you can't tell. So like
Yeah,
I would love Stitch
yeah,
Rockstar to come back into the meta
yeah.
also. But I do think that like specifically the having access to Cusco, a card that you can just bring back and then when banished again just draws you another card. Like I think the deck really needs something like that where you can just can like put your opponent in really bad scenarios. Like no matter what they do, it's the wrong choice. And I don't know that Steel has that option.
It's no, I don't think it does either, unfortunately. Rochelle has popped in. Hi, Rochelle. Thank you so much for
Yes,
your hard
hello,
work this
Michelle.
weekend. I hope you've managed to rest up a little bit today. It was awesome seeing all the pictures and saying hello briefly through the airwaves.
Yeah.
Just waving. I felt kind of ridiculous because I did it with both you and Liam as well. When I was
It
talking.
was really fun.
I was talking to Joe on the video. I was like, get them to come and wave at me. I want to wave at them. I totally did it with Rochelle as well. I was like, go and make Rochelle come and wave at us.
It was so funny because I mean it was the first day. Liam and I were there. We were nervous. We were getting ready, and I didn't even realize that like y'all were going to be on the call there with them, like
Yeah.
where we were going to be around. So I remember just like walking by and then doing this double take, like, wait,
And I
that's
was like
Jonti
this.
and Rebecca. And then like by the time I figured that out, both of you were like waving at us, and it was so fun. It was a fun little
Yeah.
interaction.
Absolutely awesome. Official Disney Lorcana commentator. She says, I'll be honest with you, I I updated my profile on Twitter.
Okay,
The
see, but
second I was allowed to it was confirmed.
I've been waiting to do this too, because specifically in my Twitter profile, for the longest time, it just said aspiring Lorcana
Firing, that's right, yeah.
Lorcana commentator. So I've changed it now to just Lorcana commentator. I
Yeah.
want to know if I can say official Lorcana commentator.
I mean,
Like,
I
you
feel like
know,
Michelle has just told you can right
yeah,
there
yeah. I
in
mean,
the
she just
chat.
called us official Lorcana commentator, so I'm probably going to change it to that. So,
And so we always say about this sort of thing, ask for forgiveness, not for permission.
yeah, that's exactly the thing Rochelle wants to hear, I'm sure.
I just got home. I hope you get a very well earned rest. You and Kyle and the rest of your team
Yes.
there did awesomely,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Oh, we have 40 Born with us. I don't know which half of 40 Born this is.
I had to
But
guess it's Jake.
Jake had a great run, got himself a Let It Go. I saw, went and celebrated at Waffle House.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, I have to mention this. So Jake mentioned on Twitter, kind of joking, former Disney Lorcana commentator. Well, that sounds like we're done. I'm not done.
Former, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I'm not over. Forget that. Um, Jake joked. Jake joked about going to Waffle House like really late. One of the nights while we were in Atlanta, and I mean, we all were so beat afterwards, it just didn't happen. And when I saw the post on Twitter of him with his "Let It Go" in front of the Waffle House, it made me laugh so much. I thought it was freaking amazing.
There we go. I think I managed to get it.
Yeah, there you go. That looks like an album cover. Like, it looks so good.
I love 40 Born, guys. If you don't already, folks, you should absolutely check out 40 Born. They do a weekly podcast, and they've started doing some stuff on YouTube as well. They mostly cover limited play styles, which is where, I'm assuming, where the name 40 comes from, because it's in limited you play 40 card decks.
Yeah.
So they cover sealed and draft, and they take a look at the cards from a different angle to how most of us do. And I tune in every week. I'll be honest with you, there's so much amazing content out there. There's only a few that I sort of religiously listen to. It's pretty much Citizens of Lorcana, Live Laugh Lorcana, and 40 Born. They are the three that every single week I listen to, and everything else I sort of dip in and out, to be honest with you. So yeah, absolutely love them. It irritates me because they both sound amazing on the microphone. They're both incredibly good looking. They have a great setup.
I can confirm
how great they are.
Can confirm Jake is very good looking in person. He was rocking some cool outfits while we were there, and he worked hard for that Let It Go. I got to talk to Jake quite a good bit. I was really happy to do that this weekend. And he worked really hard for that Let It Go. He was actually on the bubble. He could have made day 2. Yeah. So it did well enough to be on the bubble.
Oh, no way. So he was same points as 64.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, no way. It's so frustrating. Good for you, buddy. Oh man, that's amazing.
Yeah, so he did really awesome
as well.
I know, that's what I made a tweet where I quote tweeted that specific tweet, and I was like, their skill doesn't end with limited stuff. They're both really great players, or Jake's really great players. They joke that Taylor is not a very good player, but I don't know. I haven't seen Taylor play, and I'm not going to say whether or not he is. So
he probably does better than he lets on, I bet.
Probably.
Yeah, just I mean, honestly, I could spend half an hour just going through Twitter and showing some stuff up. Like, how cool is this? Steadfast and Bivens, two absolute pillars of the community, incredible players, incredible deck builders, man. Just awesome stuff.
Yeah, I feel like I've said it 100 times, but genuinely the best part was to finally meet all these people. Like, there's people that I met that I look up to as players and content creators, and there's people that I've, talked to regularly almost every day on the internet that I got to meet as well, and people whose content that I'm a fan of that I, get to meet and say hi, and like that. It was genuinely cool to see everybody in one place and have these fun interactions where, like, sometimes people don't know like what you look like, right? Especially because unless they watch This Week in Ink, I don't usually put my face a ton of places. Sometimes it's on my Twitter, but I have the Bear logo that usually covers that.
Yeah.
So there were quite a few interactions where I walked up to somebody and was excited to meet them. Was like, hey, and then like you get that weird stare that somebody gives you when you see they're trying to figure out if they know you or not, and then you introduce yourself and they're like, oh yeah, I know who you are. So it was awesome to hang out with everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
same to you, Chris. It was good to meet you.
You have to think as well, like I know for me, and I'm pretty sure it's the same for you. Although you did do Miami, right? You were at Miami TCG
Yeah.
last year,
Yep.
but
Yep.
really the last sort of like Gen Con last year was like
Mm-hmm.
when it all sort of happened, and at that point there was a handful of us, that had all put out 10, 15 YouTube videos, and there was you could probably count on both hands the sort of group. So to see it sort of come on so much from that in a year,
Mm-hmm.
it's just absolutely crazy. I see a few people say that you're taller than your
Oh,
luck.
really? That's
It's
the
probably
first
just
time I see
because
that.
I always sit like a little higher
Yeah,
than you.
I kind of sit down, which is funny because I'm not a tall guy. I'm a very average height guy. I think I'm like 5'10" or something. And so it's funny that you say that.
You're
But
5'10",
yeah.
so people must think you're like 4 foot, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm the joke. Like the joke
Yeah.
that everybody makes about short people and like, saying they're taller than they are. So I don't know. But yeah, it was fun to meet everybody. This wasn't quite Gen Con level of like everybody being in the same place. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking that like Chicago or Fort Worth is going to be that way because I got to meet a ton of competitive players this time around that I hadn't met before and that I don't think were around for Gen Con, or at least if they were, I didn't know about them. Um, which was really, really cool because that's a side of the community that I've dove into a lot over the past couple months and got to know some of the people over on that side of the community. But there's a lot of content creators that I haven't met yet that weren't around at Gen Con that I know that are going to be in Chicago and I know that are going to be in Fort Worth that I'm like very, very excited to see and meet for the first time.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. All right. Well, I think that's pretty much everything. Is there anything else you wanted to cover?
I don't think
Or you
so. I
want to
mean,
collapse?
yeah, I feel like for the past 2 days, including this stream, I just like have waffle on. I start talking and then just I don't know where the sentence ends and then it will end. So
The sign of a true caster.
yeah, like
Filling dead air.
that's just basically what I've been doing for the past 2 days. So my brain is fogged right now and I'm probably going to go crash immediately after this.
I am most definitely going to be doing the same. Well, it was absolutely incredible weekend to watch it from afar, but to be part of. It was an honor to be alongside you, even though we were
Mhm.
actually far away. But I had an absolute blast. You and Liam did an amazing job of making us all feel like we were there. The whole team did incredible. I'm very proud of all of us, and hopefully we get to do it again. And maybe one day we'll be able to sit at the
So
same table. That would be very cool.
yeah,
But
that would
we'll
be
have to
really
see.
cool.
Hope the folks that decide these things think we did good enough to do it again. We'll have to wait and see. But then
Up
also,
to them.
I said this, and you know what? I said this about the I've said this before about the hobbies and happiness
Mhm.
multiplayer madness. Like
Yep.
I want to do that every week, but
Mhm.
also I want to see 3 different people on there every week, like, so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
kind of feel the
exactly.
same about this really. I would absolutely do these if they ask me again, but also
Mhm.
I love the idea of lots of people being able to do it, and there's going to be people out there who can do it incredibly. I know there's many people out there who can do it incredibly. So
Yeah,
I think whoever does it, we just have to be incredibly welcoming and just
supportive.
and supportive and wish them the best for it. So yeah, I can't wait to see how it plays out. I'm looking forward to the rest of the year, and hopefully I'm not able to get into the States at the moment. I'm renewing my passport, and it's really
Okay.
hard work to do from Canada. Yeah, like I have to send it back to the UK, and it takes like
Oh, wow.
months back. So I'm kind of stuck here at
You're
the
stuck
moment.
in there, yeah.
So I'm hopefully like no matter how like hell or high water will not stop me from getting to Toronto in whatever form that is. Even if
Yeah,
even though I'm not casting and I don't get a ticket, I'll go and stand outside and bang on the glass. I don't care. Like
yeah.
it's literally an hour and a half away from me, so I will be there in some form or another. But yeah, I hope you have an absolute blast in Chicago. We'll be back next week, most likely
Mhm.
taking a look at set 4 and how that's settling in and seeing what's and seeing what's happening there. I guess really now we can amazing send off for set 3, but now I think we need to look forward into set 4.
Yeah, Ursula has returned. It's time to focus on that.
Yes, absolutely. Until then, Brandon, where can people find you?
You guys can find me pretty much everywhere at B Squared 24, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. That's where I mainly live these days. So I'm gonna try to get up a quickly turned around Atlanta recap video with some videos that I took while I was there and pictures and that kind of thing. So look out for that. And I have a couple other video projects that I'm hoping to work on, but with Chicago being in 2 weeks, it might be a little bit difficult to fit those in. So we'll see. But yeah,
brush up on that set 4 stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Myself, I'm working on a video this week all about the entangled glimmers from
Ooh,
Lumineer's Quest. We're going to be taking a look at those because, like, it's all incredible. They're all amazing. It's all these
yeah.
amazing new stuff that isn't really getting shown off on video so much. I'm not going to be spoiling the big finish of the game. We're just going to be taking a look at the cards in the deck and what they mean narratively and also from a gameplay point of view as well. So we'll be doing that. And on Saturday, I'm going to be half running, half playing in a 4-set draft.
That sounds fun.
One from each set. We managed to hold on to a box of first chapter and not ripping it open. So we're gonna draft a pack of each. I can't wait to that. So we'll probably be talking about that next week as well, how that went. But
awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for all the amazing support on how we did the weekend. We absolutely love you all to bits.
Absolutely.
Till next week in Ink.
That was This Week in Ink.